And it looked like Becky Hammond is not happy with A'ja Wilson for her lack of performance in this first game. Funny, bro, because A'ja Wilson was presented the MVP today. Oh, they brought out all the bells and whistles for A'ja Wilson, bro. And I'm here to tell you, oh, she played horribly bad. Now, we know that Kelsey Mitchell was nominated as the 5th player to be voted for to win the MVP. Now, we know, as of recently, Kelsey Mitchell been looking like she's the best damn player.
The Las Vegas Aces just got embarrassed, and Becky Hammond wasn't holding back. After presenting A'ja Wilson her shiny MVP trophy, Wilson went out and delivered one of her worst games against the Indiana Fever of all teams. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell looked unstoppable. Vegas fans, brace yourselves because the coach wasn't happy.
Team's ability to handle a game where A'ja is not able to dominate. Where would you rank your level of concern surrounding that, and how do you guys kind of fix that?
It's not necessarily my level of concern. I know we're capable, but not when we play like that. You know, God forbid A'ja doesn't drop 40 for us. But we had 12 assists tonight in 40 minutes, 12, and 12 turnovers. But you can start on the defensive end. I mean, clearly we had no answer for.
Was this Wilson's most overrated performance ever? Everyone thinks they know the story of A'ja Wilson's MVP celebration, but what actually happened is so much stranger than what you've been told. It starts with her own coach publicly tearing her apart, right after she accepted the league's highest honor, and it changes everything we thought we knew about the reigning champion. This isn't just about a bad game. This is about mind-bending irony. Before tip-off, the league showered Wilson with praise, handing her the MVP hardware with all the cameras rolling, painting a picture of dominance. It should have been a crowning moment, a night to solidify her legend. Instead, she delivered a performance so flat, so uninspired, that it felt less like an MVP showing and more like a cruel public prank. Becky Hammond, the Aces coach, didn't just fume, she unleashed raw, unedited fury. What happens next defies all logic. Across the court, Kelsey Mitchell, a player many doubted would even be in the MVP conversation, played like she was possessed. She torched the Aces defense, proving every critic wrong with pull-ups, threes, drives, and free throws that seemed to drop effortlessly. By halftime, Vegas was reeling. By the final buzzer, Mitchell's performance made Wilson's freshly polished MVP trophy look like a heavy, embarrassing weight. This is the part that will blow your mind. Let's rewind to the immediate aftermath. Becky Hammond sat in that post-game press conference, a look of pure frustration etched on her face. She didn't dodge questions. She didn't sugarcoat. And most shockingly, she didn't cover for her star. She laid it all bare. The defense was non-existent, the offense stagnant, and Wilson's glaring lack of dominance left the Aces looking astonishingly ordinary. Her words were a hammer blow. 12 assists in 40 minutes and 12 turnovers. That's not championship basketball. That's rec league sloppiness.
Lexi Hull had that great steal to seal the win against Atlanta. Great start for Leah.
But here's where it gets really crazy. Hammond went deeper than just turnovers. She pointed out the unforgivable. 9, maybe 10 missed layups. Those bunnies that are momentum killers. Fundamental plays that even amateurs convert. Combine that with Wilson's shocking inability to impose herself on the game, and Indiana didn't just smell blood. They were feasting on the champion's exposed weaknesses. Everything you think you know is about to change. Now, let's talk about Wilson's role in this disaster. A 3-time MVP isn't supposed to look this ordinary in a playoff setting, especially not on her celebration night. Sure, she had good looks, but just missed isn't an excuse when you're supposed to be the standard of excellence. Fans crave dominance from their MVPs, not explanations for rattling shots. And what they got was the exact opposite of what they paid to see.
I know we're capable, but not when we play like that. You know, God forbid A'ja doesn't drop 40 for us. But we had 12 assists tonight in 40 minutes, 12, and 12 turnovers. But you could start on the defensive end. I mean, clearly we had no answer for Mitchell. Couldn't even attempt to slow her down a little bit. I thought it was really poor.
Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark, no longer the hyped rookie but a seasoned second-year general, ran Indiana's offense with poise. She fed Boston, created crucial spacing for Mitchell, and kept the Fever composed under pressure. It's wild to say this, but Wilson didn't look like the most impactful player on the floor. She didn't even look like the most impactful forward. Aaliyah Boston outplayed her, Mitchell outshone her, and Clark controlled the entire tempo. And that's where the sarcastic, undeniable twist comes in. A'ja Wilson might have the MVP trophy, but trophies don't win playoff games. Production does. And in this game, she looked like she needed Clark to hand her a few lessons on how to show up under pressure. This isn't just the beginning of this rabbit hole. Becky Hammond wasn't just mad. She was openly embarrassed. You could hear it in her tone, the way her voice cracked with disbelief. The Aces are supposed to be the juggernauts, the team everyone fears. Instead, they looked like they couldn't even keep up with Indiana's pace, much less dictate it. Hammond slammed their lack of pursuit, no second or third efforts, no defensive pride. Screens ate them alive. Every lineup she tried, even desperate small ball efforts, fell victim to their bad habits. Let's not sugarcoat it. Mitchell ran circles around them, dropping 17 in the first half and never cooling off. Vegas allowed her to walk into rhythm shots, and by the time they realized she wasn't going to miss, it was already too late. Hammond admitted it wasn't about one defender. Stopping a scorer like Mitchell takes multiple efforts. But multiple efforts require, well, effort. And the Aces simply didn't have it. Now compare that to Caitlin Clark. Last season, she was the hyped rookie, facing doubts about her toughness and adaptability. Now in her second year, she's no rookie, and it shows. Her leadership steadied Indiana when the Aces tried to make runs. She made the smart plays, the extra passes, the crucial tempo adjustments. She didn't need 30 points. Her presence alone fundamentally changed the game. That's just the beginning of this rabbit hole. This is the exact contrast Hammond was alluding to. When Wilson struggled, nobody stepped up, nobody moved the ball, nobody adjusted. The Fever, on the other hand, had multiple weapons stepping up when needed. Boston anchored the paint, Mitchell carried the scoring load, Clark orchestrated, and even role players chipped in with energy and grit. Indiana looked cohesive, a unit operating with a shared purpose. Vegas looked utterly disconnected. What's worse for the Aces is that Wilson's struggles aren't just about one-off night. Hammond said it clearly, almost defensively. Wilson doesn't usually lay two stinkers in a row. That's coach speak for, don't embarrass us again. But the very fact that Hammond had to defend Wilson by calling it an off night shows just how bad it was. Nobody expects perfection, but MVPs aren't supposed to fold under playoff lights, especially on their own celebration night. Fans caught the irony instantly. Social media lit up with jokes about Wilson receiving her MVP trophy only to play like a role player. Memes comparing her output to Clark's leadership were everywhere. Some even went as far as saying the league gave the award to the wrong player. Whether that's fair or not, perception matters. And Wilson gave critics a full arsenal of ammunition. Meanwhile, Mitchell's rise has been impossible to ignore. She's gone from just a scorer on a struggling team to the engine of an Indiana squad that's now upsetting heavyweights. Watching her shred Vegas while Wilson faded into the background made Hammond's fury inevitable. Coaches hate nothing more than effort issues, and the Aces' shocking lack of fight exposed deeper cracks within the supposed dynasty. Think about it. This is the same Aces team that built its reputation on toughness, depth, and star power. And here they were, looking disorganized, stagnant, and flat-footed. Hammond even admitted their huddles lacked energy. That's not a talent problem. That's a mentality problem. A cancer from within. Indiana, on the other hand, is thriving off that underdog energy. Nobody expected them to climb this fast, yet here they are. They've beaten the Aces before. They've beaten other contenders, and now they've made Vegas look utterly lost at home. The Fever play with urgency. The Aces play like they're entitled. That contrast couldn't be clearer. This is the part that will blow your mind. So let's ask the uncomfortable question. Is A'ja Wilson really the most valuable player when she can look this ordinary in the biggest games? Or do Clark, Boston, and Mitchell represent a new wave, where the hype actually matches the production? Wilson has the accolades, but championships aren't won with old hardware. They're won on nights like this, where she flat out didn't show up. Becky Hammond wasn't hiding her frustration with anyone. She called out the stagnant offense, the lack of defensive rotations, and even the failure to finish layups. Those aren't superstar problems. They're basics. And when a team fails at the basics, the blame doesn't just fall on role players. It falls squarely on the leader. That leader is Wilson. This isn't the first time the Aces have been punched in the mouth. But the problem is how they responded, or rather how they didn't. When Indiana went on their critical 10-0 run, Vegas crumbled. The Fever played with pep, Hammond's word, while the Aces dragged themselves through possessions like they'd rather be anywhere else. The contrast was genuinely laughable. It's almost poetic that Wilson's bad night happened against Indiana of all teams. The Fever are the story of the league. Caitlin Clark bringing in fans, Aaliyah Boston establishing herself as an elite big, and Mitchell proving she's far more than a secondary option. Indiana is young, fiery, and hungry. Vegas is older, decorated, and apparently complacent. And complacency is what Hammond despises most. Her comments about effort weren't just coach cliches. She hammered on the lack of pursuit, the laziness off screens, the absence of second and third efforts. Translation: the Aces played soft. And if you're supposed to be the league's powerhouse, soft is unacceptable. Wilson has built her brand as the unstoppable force, the player who can take over any matchup. But when Boston outworks you, Mitchell outshines you, and Clark outsmarts you, it doesn't matter what your trophy case looks like. On this night, Wilson wasn't the face of the league. She was a face in the crowd. The bigger question now is how Vegas responds. Hammond made it clear. Wilson won't lay 2 stinkers in a row. But is that hope, or is it denial? Because right now, Indiana doesn't care about Wilson's resume. They care about wins. And the way they're playing, they might just force Wilson into another rough night. Social media's verdict was brutal. MVP of what? One fan tweeted. Missing very predictably, others joked. Even Fever fans who normally wouldn't trash talk were stunned at how easy it was to take Vegas apart. And Hammond, for all her coaching pedigree, couldn't spin it into anything but a failure. Vegas has lived off reputation for too long. Yes, they're champions. Yes, they're loaded with talent. But reputations don't win games in the present. Effort does. Execution does. And on both counts, Indiana owned them. This is the part that will blow your mind. So here's the unthinkable truth. Wilson might still be the league's poster child. But on this night, she was no Caitlin Clark. Clark's second-year composure, Boston's interior dominance, and Mitchell's scoring fireworks were everything Wilson wasn't: reliable, impactful, and fearless. That's why Hammond went nuts. She's tired of excuses. She knows the margin for error is gone. And if Wilson doesn't rise to the moment, Indiana will happily bury Vegas's dynasty talk once and for all. One detail that often gets overlooked is how moments like these linger inside a locker room. Teammates hear every word a coach says in that press conference. And when Becky Hammond basically says, "We had no fight," that sticks. Veterans might brush it off, but younger players often internalize it. Suddenly, the Aces' chemistry isn't just about running plays, it's about pride and accountability. Wilson herself has never been shy about wanting the spotlight. She thrives on being the centerpiece of the league's marketing push, the face on the billboards, the player the WNBA sells to fans. Nights like this one cut deeper because they clash with that carefully cultivated image. It's one thing for a role player to disappear. It's another for the supposed standard-bearer to look ordinary while the league's rising stars shine brighter. The Fever's meteoric rise adds an extra sting. This isn't a juggernaut like the Liberty-stealing headlines. It's a team that was laughed at not long ago. Every time Indiana wins, the narrative shifts away from Vegas. The Aces no longer feel untouchable, and that psychological edge they carried into every arena is slipping. Once opponents stop fearing you, the climb back to dominance is twice as steep. There's also the crushing pressure of history. Dynasties aren't just built on championships. They're defined by how they respond to adversity. The Houston Comets once looked unbeatable, and then the league caught up. Same with the early Sparks. The Aces now face that same turning point. Either they adapt, or they join the list of once great teams who couldn't sustain it. Hammond's rant was about more than X's and O's. It was a warning shot. Play harder, or watch this era close sooner than expected. And the wildest part? Indiana didn't even need Caitlin Clark to drop 40, or Aaliyah Boston to dominate every possession. They simply played connected basketball, trusted their system, and exposed every hole Vegas tried to patch. If the Aces thought this was just an off night, they're in for a rude awakening. Because the Fever aren't slowing down, and the league isn't waiting for Vegas to figure itself out. Wilson might bounce back individually, but unless the Aces collectively rediscover their bite, moments like this loss will keep piling up, and Hammond's patience won't last forever. Becky Hammond's frustration was deafening, and A'ja Wilson's MVP glow turned sour fast. The Fever exposed the Aces, Mitchell owned the night, and Caitlin Clark proved again why she's fundamentally changing the game. Vegas has devastating questions to answer, and Wilson has everything to prove. This isn't just a game, it's a turning point for the entire league.